So Satan appears 3 more times in the Old Testament, but each time is very brief. Zechariah chapter 3, verse 1, Satan makes some non-specific accusations about Joshua, apparently trying to bring Joshua's failings to the attention of God. And in the next sentence, God just says, no, Satan, I reject your accusations, I rebuke you. And that's it for Satan's appearance in Zechariah. Now, on a tangential note, I just want to add here that if Job had heard about God and Satan's discussion about Joshua, I'm just picturing, I just suspect Job would have said something to God like, okay, wait a second, God, let me get this right. Satan makes accusations about Joshua, and your only response is to rebuke Satan because what, you consulted your omniscience and you realized that you already knew the outcome? If so, how come when Satan made accusations about me, you guys came up with this sadistic test where you had to fill my skin with pus and maggots, and having bandits slice up all my servants, and having my children crushed to death? I mean, what the fuck? Anyway, tangential point there. All right. Satan also makes an appearance in 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 1. And here he gets just a one-sentence cameo. And it says that Satan made David take a census in Israel. And then Satan disappears and he's not mentioned again. Just one more little tangent. The events that happen after the census are really just truly bizarre, because Satan has inspired David to make this apparently horrible crime of taking a census. God goes completely ballistic. But instead of taking his wrath out on either Satan or David, God attacks the Israelites by sending a plague that kills 70,000. Just yet another biblical what the fuck moment. Anyway, I want to keep my focus here to the Hebrew perspective of Satan, so I'm going to move on to the one other mention of Satan in the Old Testament, and that's Psalms chapter 109, verses 6 through 7. A wicked man is being judged and condemned, and Satan, well, like again, a prosecuting attorney in God's court, is standing by. All right, so that's it for the Old Testament sections on Satan. Now, there is one last Old Testament section that some Christians, certainly not all, say refer to the devil. And this is in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. And it reads, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Now, Christians who believe that this passage is about the devil say that it explains Satan's origins, that Satan had been an angel of high power and authority, but Satan perverted that power by his desire to exalt himself above God. And they'll say that Lucifer, which means morning star, is God's nickname for Satan. And the line, "How art thou fallen from heaven," is a reference to Satan's fall from his high rank. Now, Judaism is baffled by this interpretation, and I think for good reason, because when you read the whole chapter of Isaiah 14, you can see that this chapter is about a once powerful Babylonian king who in the past had demolished cities and been merciless with his enemies, but now himself was being crushed. And morning star / Lucifer is the king's nickname, and fallen from heaven refers to the king's loss of power. And that's really all it's about. The interpretation that Lucifer also refers to a demon enemy of God, I mean, it just comes out of nowhere. And I should add here that even some Christian apologetic sites actually agree. This interpretation is unbiblical and even nonsensical. All right, anyway, one last thing worthy of mention about Satan in the Old Testament is that he's absolutely missing in all the major stories of mass suffering. In the Great Flood, in the enslavement in Egypt, the civil war between Israel and Judah, the military defeats at the hands of the Assyrians and the Babylonians, the exile to Babylon. In all these sections, the character of Satan is never mentioned as the cause of suffering, or never mentioned at all. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the New Testament, where Satan is no longer a servant of God, and there's no transition period here, no explanation. Satan is just instantly transformed into a new character who encourages disobedience to God. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2 says, "You people live full of sin, obeying Satan, the mighty prince of the power of the air. He is the spirit at work in the hearts of those who refuse to obey God." And now instead of being just one of the many angels, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4 refers to Satan as the god of this evil world. Satan, the god of this evil world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe, so they are unable to see the glorious light of the good news that is shining upon them. Now, what's more, Christianity tries to make this edit in Satan's character retroactive. As John chapter 8, verse 44 says that Satan has been a liar and a murderer from the very beginning. The devil was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in truth because there is no truth in him. And then, of course, there's Revelation where Satan drags a whole bunch of angels down with him and they turn into demons. And Satan and his demons wage war against God's kingdom. Revelation chapter 12, verse 3 describes Satan as a dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, this is a fitting image for someone who's transforming angels into demons and waging war against God. But note how unfitting this image is for the character of Satan as he appeared in the book of Job. I mean, this is someone who spoke to God on friendly terms and who God even trusted enough to give his weaponry to. So when I read the Bible and try to see the character that Christianity describes, I can't help but see the supporting passages as something of a jumbled mess. But when I read passages from the secular perspective, well, there's still something of a jumbled mess, but that's not a problem because from the secular perspective, the Bible is just a wholly human effort. The Bible's authors lived in various time periods, different ideas about the supernatural, influenced by different pre-existing mythologies. And when the Bible is finally compiled into one text, there's no divine editor there to ensure consistency among all the separate components. As for the pre-existing mythologies that influenced the New Testament authors about Satan, one very likely source was the Greeks. For one, the New Testament authors were surrounded by Greek culture, and they even wrote in Greek. The ancient Greek religion included a god they called Hades, as a god that ruled the realm of the dead. And the Greeks also believed in spirits that they called demons. Hades was also the name of the underworld itself, a world that contained a fiery river and a dungeon called Tartarus, where the wicked were eternally tormented. And the New Testament authors picked up on all these themes. I mean, demons appear throughout the New Testament. The tale that Jesus tells of Lazarus and the rich man, well, that one mentions Hades as where the rich man goes after he dies to go get tormented. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4 refers to Tartarus as the dungeon where sinful angels are punished. And Revelation makes repeated warnings about the underworld's lake of fire. Now, another possible influence for the New Testament authors was the dualistic religion of Zoroastrianism. And at the risk of oversimplifying, Zoroastrianism has it that there's a good God and an evil God. And both gods came into existence at the same time, and they're battling for control. And also, similar to Christianity, the scriptures predict a final battle in which the result will be long-time suffering for the evil, long-time bliss for the righteous. All right, chapter 30 of Yasna starts off with, "In the beginning, there were 2 primal spirits, twins, spontaneously active. These are the good and the evil, in thought and in word and in deed." And later on it says, "And when there cometh the ultimate retribution, long suffering for the doer of evil, and bliss for the follower of truth." Now, I say Zoroastrianism was a possible influence because although there's widespread agreement among scholars that Zoroastrianism preceded Christianity by hundreds or even thousands of years, there's disagreement on the particular beliefs of pre-Christian Zoroastrianism because unfortunately all the pre-Christian Zoroastrian source documents have been lost. And I'll have more to say. I have more to say about that on that particular subject, that is. But I'm going to save that for a separate video. All right. Anyway, even if we discard Zoroastrianism as a possible influence, and even if we set aside the Greek influence, the Bible itself gives away its patchwork history. For not only does the character change from the Old Testament to the New Testament reveal inconsistent ideas about Satan, there's also the philosophical incoherence. I mean, dualistic and polytheistic religions, now they might have reasons to create stories in which the good gods and the bad gods battle each other. But for Christianity, to say that God will have an epic cosmic battle against Satan and Satan's legions of demons, I mean, that would just be melodrama. Because God is supposedly omnipotent, so the outcome of the battle would be a no-brainer. The battle would be far from epic. It would be more like, Muhammad Ali against Urkel. One half punch, battle's over. Yet when we read the Bible from the secular perspective, that it's a patchwork of stories pieced together by different people, different centuries, different ideas about the supernatural, and who are influenced by pre-existing mythologies, well, then there's no reason to have any kind of expectations of consistency. From that perspective, it just makes sense that the pieces of this religious puzzle are jagged. Okay, thank you for watching.